All right, well, welcome to this training on the value engineering tool. This is how we vet an account in the allsmart.work operating platform. So as you can see here, when you value engineer an account, and more or less this is a customer onboarding tool with financial information to help us better manage our accounts in the future. And so you can see here there are 8 sections in the vet. Starting with our information, the individual, the operator, the portfolio manager inputting the customer information and all of its relevant details into this upload. And then we're going to move through to site specific and general information, our current services and our financial run rates, vendor partners and technicians, client contact info, contract scopes and escalations, our labor costing, and then really 8 is, it says costing details, but it's more or less a summary of what you've inputted into this vet. And please don't feel overwhelmed. Each of these pages are relatively this long. They're not very long to fill out. Let's get started. And one other thing before I start, Tom was able to build in a tutorial here. This is new. And so we're going to use this tutorial for the first page because it takes Tom, what, about 20 to 25, maybe 30 minutes to do?
Yeah, pretty close to it.
Pretty close to it. Okay. So I just want to give you a flavor, a taste of it now, so you can understand how the tutorial works and operates. And then in the future, if you have any questions and want to reference this video or use the tutorial on your own, you'll know how to access it. So when you check, give me the tutorial, it is going to give you a step-by-step instruction and sometimes an explanation on the information you're inputting or reading. And so here we can see the value engineering tool is being highlighted as step 1. This is your guided tour through the value engineering tool, VET for short. It's broken down to 8 sections like I shared earlier. And the most important thing here, guys, we are looking for accurate data entered into this VET. So we have the option to skip or click next. We also have the option to speed through the guided tour once you become more familiar with it, and you can jump to other steps at a quicker pace throughout the 8 sections of this VET. So we'll select next. And as I did earlier, I toggled to full screen. That's step 2. And step 3, it's asking for our operator info. So who are you? Select your name from the drop-down list. And you can, not only as you're taking the tour, reading it here in the grayed out and green box, you're able to select step 4 here live throughout the tour. So I'll select Beckham. Next. Want to confirm this is the correct email. If it's not, again, you can back that out and put your correct email in. Click next. Enter our phone number. Click next. And then your supervisor name. Again, here's a drop down. And this is an important step before you leave page 1, everybody. You have 2 options here. You have pipeline new business or directory, which is going to fall into your recurring work. So if this is an existing account, whether it be in Chicago, Atlanta, Jacksonville, or we're servicing them in a region or throughout the 48 states, we have an existing signed contract, we're going to select directory. In a future training, we'll go over the pipeline process, which is very similar to a recurring VET that we're doing now, and where to view that in the future. But we'll select directory. And then you can click next, and it'll tell you to click the next button to move to section 2. I'm going to jump out of this guided tour by just clicking outside of the guided tour. It's going to save all my information that I just input, and I'll click next. All right, and it's going to check off section number 1 that it was complete, and now we're on number 2. It's highlighted in the gray. You can see here The unfinished sections are colored in white all the way through 8. So if you wanted to access the guided tour and you feel that you have a question, you can always go back to the previous page if you're on page 2, or up here you can select ACS operator info to jump to that page. The same is true if you want to go forward throughout this VET tool. All right. But to continue on for this training, let's go ahead, and this is just going to be a sample, everyone. This is not a live account. So this is just sample information we're putting in here. So we'll put the site name, the address, the city, the state, the zip code. And then we want to provide branding via the client logo. So select files, enter your desired picture for this site, this client. Next, we have our account class. So healthcare, corporate facilities. This includes both multi-tenant, single tenant, education, logistics, residential, restaurants, financial institutions or banks, government, retail, dealerships, student housing. It's important to note the difference in these classes here. So residential, we're talking about high-rise condominiums and apartments, mid-rises, and student housing, we're talking about universities and college campuses. All right, so for this example, we'll just select healthcare. And because this is not an existing client brand, so this is not an additional Estes Express terminal we're adding or another OneMain Financial or another Genpack location, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and select other or not listed. I can also type in the text box above other not listed, and it will jump to that option. Asking for the serviceable square footage. And the number of national locations. And then Tom, I have a question for you so you can answer this for the team, please. It's asking for the overall site foot traffic. How many people come and go out of this location on a normal day? It's hard for us to know if we don't work there, if we're not taking the tally every day. What's your what kind of information? What number are you looking for here?
Sure, Brian. It can really be a best guess. The best course of action there is to obviously have a conversation with your primary contact on the client side of things and just ask. So in the example of an Estes Express, while the terminal may only be 500 or 600 square foot in size or 1,000, they could have 200 or 300 people in and out of that terminal every day. So that number is really, it's focused for our relationship with Staples and our other suppliers so that we can gauge how many consumable products that client would potentially need.
Great. And that was going to be my part 2 question. Why is this important? Consumables. Great point. All right, so we're going to estimate 100. We'll select next. All right, section 3 is our current services and financials. So what do we currently provide? Is it just night cleaning? Is it a combination of night cleaning and day porter work? Are we doing any additional services here? And you have the catch-all miscellaneous other. If we find that we're providing another service regularly for a client, please raise your hand and contact myself, and I'll coordinate with Tom adding that to this list. And that's true for any drop-down list as we review this VET form or anything in the platform. So select night cleaning. And you have 7 days to choose from, and you can choose as many as 7 or as little as 1. So select Monday, click back in the text box. You'll see Monday is X'd out because you can no longer select that as a service day since it's already been selected. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So the current monthly revenue, we'll say is, and the cost of goods sold, again, we're trying to achieve a 30% margin. So as you input the revenue, as you input the cost of goods sold, you're going to see that a few of the fields below auto-populate. So the current monthly gross profit is just the difference between your revenue and cost of goods sold, which would be 3,000, producing a current profit margin of 30%. And it's showing down here the current revenue per square foot is 10 cents, and the current cost of goods sold per square foot is 7 cents. Tom, another question for you. This goal profit margin percentage, baseline goal should be about 10% higher than current gross profit margin. What are we looking, what are the operators supposed to input here? What are we trying to drive here?
So when we do our projections and our financials for the following year, we'll base those numbers off of the goal margins and the difference in comparison between where we're currently at and where we'd like to be. So that drop down is just a generic drop down, but try to always choose whatever is closest to about 10% above where you're currently at. So in this example, we choose 40%.
Understood. Thank you for clarifying. And then here you have the option if we're providing monthly consumables to our customer. So here we can input, yep, we provide 100. We're making a healthy 50% margin there. That's the cost of goods sold here. We'll click next. All right, now we're on to page 4, or section 4. Tom, we're going to skip over section 4 for now. Is that correct? Because this is going to be part of the vendor partner program.
That's correct. So
okay.
This will be an option when you're vetting new accounts or running a vet on a brand where you already have sites uploaded in the future. But for now, we're going to disable it from this initial vet upload, and you'll access this through your site directory.
Okay, great. So Tom and I will work this week and next to update these sections so that you only see what is pertinent to you to onboard a new client. So we'll skip section 4 by jumping to section 5. Give it a second to load here. There we go. So here it's just asking for our client contact information. So here's the client name. We'll enter the phone number. And the email address. And you also have the opportunity, everyone, to input a second contact information here. So that's important as well if you have that information. Once you're satisfied, click next. And we'll jump to section 6, which covers our contracts, scope of work, and escalations. So here we have 4 fields requiring our input. We have the agreement execution date. You can see here we're in the month of May. I'm going to jump over to, we'll just say May. And we execute the contract today, May 20th. So the escalation, because this is an annual contract, is May 2022. So I'm going to move the year forward and select May 2022. And then here's where we put the facility service agreement. This is what we sign with our client. So once this form is saved in SharePoint, we're going to copy and paste that hyperlink here. And then typically in our FSAs, as I was discussing with Tom earlier, we also have the scope of work attached to it as an addendum or an exhibit A or B. It's important. Yes, it can be included in this link, included in this FSA, but please extract that scope of work and create another hyperlink for it in SharePoint and input that link here. The importance of that is we want to be able to share this with our vendor partner market so that they know the scope of work on how to price a job based on the other information, the frequency, et cetera. And you click next.
Brian, a quick question.
Yes, Bob.
When they look at the scope of work, do they also have access to the service agreement? That's probably something we would not want them to have access to.
Access to the customer service agreement?
Correct.
That's a great question. That's the reason why we have the two different hyperlinks there. Let me go back to what Bob's referring.
To put your mind at ease, Bob, while that's loading, no one can access any of your directory uploads or any of your contracts unless they're an all-clean employee.
So this link to scope of work, Bob and everyone, will be made available if Tom and Ryan make it available to the vendor partners who are an approved vendor partner in our company, in our work order, in our operating platform here, and who want to bid on an account. So we'll have to give them access to this link. They will not see the contract with the customer.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we remove all branding. It'll be a custom PDF that they can download that won't have any of your client details on it.
All right. So here we're at our labor costing, step 7, almost to page 8 with our summary. And we want to select the state that this work is being performed in. And then Tom, would you help me answer the next 2 questions? Are there non-porter services at this location? Are there porter services at this location? Please explain the difference between the two.
Of course. So this can be a little confusing. And thank you guys for your feedback, because I'm going to be changing how this works, hopefully next week. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we'll go ahead and we'll select yes from the are there non-porter services at this location dropdown. Now, what's the difference between a porter and a non-porter? In our vernacular, we're used to utilizing the term porter as a day porter or someone who cleans while the client is on site. And that is correct. But for our purposes in this form, a porter is someone who is not managed and or controlled by us through a productivity rate. So if you assign a productivity rate to one of your laborers or one of your vendor contractors or partners, then they would no longer be considered a porter. If they are not measured against a productivity rate, then they would be considered a porter service.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tom. And so this is a 5-day-a-week account. If you remember from our information we inputted in the previous section. And the productivity rate on this account, we're estimating is 4,000. And then are there day porter services here? We're going to select no, just night cleaning. We'll click next. It's going to move us on to section 8, which is our summary page. And so Tom, one more time, if you can unmute your mic and just give us the brief summary of what this page is showing before we get to the directory.
Yeah, absolutely. So this summary is going to be kicking out all of the information that you would have input inside of your vet, but it's basing your wage rates and your costing rates off of a few different metrics, including state population density, average cost of living, any recent and or past, but still in implemented COLA escalations, amongst about 15 other items that are going to let you, as the operator on the account, or Ryan in partner support, understand to a much higher degree and a very great high level of detail what all of your options, all of your financial options would be for this account and where you're currently sitting at.
Okay, great. And Tom, are we required, if we're completing this vet, whether it's myself or any of the managers on this call, are we required to make any changes, or is this simply just a summary form?
This is simply just a summary. So
okay.
To edit the fields that you see here, You can, and by all means, please do, but you have to edit them by going back through the pages and adjusting things like your productivity rate or your service days per week, or the COLA state that you're servicing this particular site in.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So like I said earlier at the beginning, while this is a customer onboarding tool, we also wanted to include financial information such as run rates, price per square footage rates, so that we can better run our accounts and improve margins and create the best value add for our customer and for the company as a whole. So once you scroll through the summary page, section 8, your final stage, click submit. All right, it's going to say the page is refreshing after the vet is uploaded. And once you see you're back to step 1, there's no more check marks throughout the stages of this vet. You know that you've had a successful upload. Tom, we may want to consider a message here saying, you've had a successful upload, if you want to make a note of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to validate that, what we'll want to do, again, the vet tool is used for recurring work only. And this was an existing account, not one in the pipeline. So we're going to go into our recurring portfolio at the top toolbar and go to our directory. Now my directory is very limited as I'm not managing any accounts. However, your account, Michelle and Alex, you'll see all your residential accounts here. Alexis, you'll see all the Atlanta non-residential accounts. Christie's with SDs and Genpack, Trace with SMS and beyond. But for this example, I created a test vet upload earlier. And then this is the one we just completed, the Bryan Sample Company. As you can see, it populated my logo, my company logo, Atlanta skyline, the site name, the address. It's a healthcare class. Because the brand was not already listed, we have it listed as other or not listed, so we'll get that updated soon. And then if we had a link to the, this says master services agreement, it should be facility services agreement, that would be here. And of course, our scope of work has the square footage and then the national locations. We just have the one. So you can expand that information by selecting the plus sign near the logo. And you can see more information such as the site traffic, the operator, its supervisor, the services and schedule, the goal for the margin, the revenue, cost of goods sold, and gross profit. You have the square footage numbers, the consumable numbers, the primary contact information, secondary, and of course, agreement execution date, the escalation date. And if you wanted to edit the entry, you have that option here as well. All right. So let me go back to the home screen here. So that completes our overview of the allsmart.work operating platform, as well as how to vet an account, an existing customer of ours. This is the process we'll follow moving forward for any accounts that aren't already uploaded into the allsmart.work platform. I know there's a few outstanding ones out there, so please follow this process, reference this video. You have the guided tour available to you in stage 1 of the vet an account. If you have any questions, and of course, myself or Tom are here to serve you in that capacity as well. So right now I'll open the floor. We have about 15 minutes left in this training window. I want to thank everybody for their listening ears and their time thus far. But now if you want to go ahead and unmute your mic, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now.